and it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
And welcome to another week of On the Money. I'm Liam Halligan, and this is your daily weekday dose of economics, business and consumer news. Up in the coming hour, Novak Djokovic's family are due to give a press conference after the tennis star won an appeal against the refusal of his visa to Australia. We'll bring you any developments as they happen. But for the bulk of this hour, viewers and listeners, we're focusing on what matters most to you at home, the cost of living crisis, and in particular, those sky-high energy bills. More on that after the GB News headlines with Rosie Wright.
It's just gone 1 o'clock. Good afternoon. Let's get you up to date here on GB News. Novak Djokovic has won his appeal against deportation from Australia. With the judge ruling, he did have the required medical exemption to enter the country without a COVID vaccine. Djokovic's interview with Border Force also confirmed he's caught COVID-19 twice and he hasn't had the vaccine. The court was told the government's decision to revoke the tennis player's visa was unreasonable. But Australia's immigration minister says he reserves the right to exercise personal power to expel the star from the country. In an exclusive interview with GB News, Goran Djokovic, the tennis star's uncle, he said his nephew has been treated like an animal.
I don't know what's wrong with the people there, you know. If Novak is not welcoming, they're supposed to say that. Please don't come. And if they issue the visa for him, and after that they arrest him, this is like, for me, it looks like trap for the animals, you know, like a wolf, animals in the mountain, you know. And they invite him to come and they trap him and put him in the jail, trying to put him on his knees.
The government is considering cutting the COVID isolation period for fully vaccinated people in England from 7 days, as it currently is, to 5. Speaking during a visit to a vaccination centre in his West London constituency, Boris Johnson says ministers will follow the science. The Prime Minister also says lateral flow tests will continue to be freely available.
I think that we'll use them as long as they're very important, and there's a similar argument to be had about the quarantine period, whether to come down from 7 days to 5 days. We're looking at that, and we'll act according to the science.
Around 100,000 critical workers will receive bundles of lateral flow tests today. It's part of the government's bid to try to protect key services. So food processing staff, border force officers, air traffic controllers, they'll be among those to receive the swabs. Ministers hope the test will ensure people aren't self-isolating unnecessarily and that it may help prevent outbreaks in workplaces. Pregnant women are being urged to get vaccinated against COVID-19 to protect themselves and their babies. The Department of Health and Social Care say nearly all of the women, the pregnant women, 96% of them, who were hospitalised last year between May and October with COVID symptoms, hadn't taken the vaccine. The government says the jabs are safe during pregnancy and have no impact on fertility. 8 men who took legal action against Manchester City Football Club after complaining of abuse by their former youth coach have lost a High Court fight. The former players claimed the convicted paedophile, Barry Bennell, abused them when they were playing for teams he coached between 1979 and 1985. Well, they said Manchester City was vicariously liable for the harm they suffered, but a judge ruled against them. Mr. Justice Johnson said the connection between the abuse and Bennell's relationship with the football club was insufficient and that the claims were brought too late to result in a fair trial. The government says it will not hesitate to introduce a developer's tax to hit those responsible for dangerous cladding if firms do not voluntarily step up to fix safety defects. The Housing Secretary, Michael Gove, says developers need to start contributing to the cost this year. It's estimated to be around £4 billion. Liam Spender is a spokesman for the End Our Cladding Scandal campaign. Well, he told us it's an issue affecting thousands of people.
Since Grenfell more than 4.5 years ago, about 90,000 buildings across the UK have found themselves in this unholy mess of being in buildings that have flammable cladding or have fire safety defects inside the building, things like fire doors that don't work properly, fire alarms that don't work properly, things like that. And they've been trapped and unable to sell, and some of them are facing ruinous bills.
Buckingham Palace has unveiled the lineup of celebrations for the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. It's going to mark her 70 years on the throne, with a 4-day UK bank holiday weekend from the 2nd to the 5th of June. It's going to include a platinum pudding competition that's going to be judged by a panel, including Dame Mary Berry, street parties, a concert, a chance to see the Queen's homes up close as well. And the discovery of the UK's largest and most complete fossil of a so-called sea dragon has been described as one of the greatest finds in Britain. The bones of the ichthyosaur were found at Rutland Water last February, and they were dug up in August and September. The reptile lived around 180 million years ago. It's estimated to be 10 metres long, with its skull alone weighing nearly a tonne. It's 6 minutes past 1. You are right up to date now here on GB News. I'll bring you the latest headlines in half an hour. Right now, back to On the Money and Liam.
And this is On the Money. Now, the UK is facing a cost of living crisis. Regular On the Money viewers have known this for some time. Here on your daily dose of economics, business and consumer news, we've been discussing inflation and the impact on living standards for months. What's now becoming clear, though, or at least what our political and media class has lately realised, is that this coming April, 3 factors will combine to deliver a cost of living triple whammy, hitting living standards across Britain. And that could well cause a political backlash in May, when Boris Johnson's Conservative government faces some pretty tricky local elections. Now, last year, inflation built slowly from less than 1% to reach 5.2% in November. Price pressures have intensified more since, with even the Bank of England, previously slow on the uptake, now conceding we're heading for 6% inflation this spring, with many commercial forecasters predicting even higher numbers. And if inflation hits 6% and you're not getting a 6% pay rise, as the vast majority of us won't, you're losing money. So if inflation is the first part of the living standards triple whammy, the second is tax, because April will also see a slew of tax rises. As Chancellor Rishi Sunak announced last year, national insurance will go up for employers and employees in April, costing someone on the average wage around £300 a year. Tax thresholds will meanwhile be frozen, dragging more people and income into the basic and higher rate tax brackets, the ultimate form of stealth tax. But the really big shock, the third and final part of the triple whammy, will be utility bills, with the energy price cap set to be raised in April, allowing energy companies to charge ordinary households more. The average household utility bill, £1,277 a year, just over £100 a month, is set to rise to around £2,000, almost £170 monthly, reflecting high wholesale gas prices. Now, that's a massive increase that will hit many ordinary families very hard. Now, On the Money cares a lot about ordinary families, as does GB News more generally. As we often say on this channel, if it matters to you, it matters to us. And that's why we're today launching a campaign. April is going to be tough, even if this COVID pandemic is behind us, and that's by no means a given. But there is something the government can do to ease energy bills, something that Brexit makes possible, now that we control our own taxes. VAT on energy bills is currently 5%, but 5% of a £2,000 energy bill, that's £100. And for many hard-pressed families, that's worth having. Better than a kick in the teeth, as they say. So rather than an on-the-money question today, we're discussing our new campaign, something we're going to keep an eye on, return to regularly on this show and across GB News as a whole. As inflation builds, tax rises loom, and energy costs are about to spiral even more, On the Money calls on the Treasury and the broader government. When it comes to energy bills, Boris, it's time to scrap the VAT. Now, if it matters to you, it matters to us. We said that when we launched GB News back in June, and we'll keep saying it. That's why we're launching this campaign, because so many of you have told us how tough it is to face much higher energy bills, with even bigger rises to come. Derek emailed us, how on earth are pensioners going to pay for massive rises in fuel prices? Countless people are on the lowest state pension. As a result, they're £42 a week worse off than those born after a certain date. That's government discrimination on a grand scale. Mark said it's obvious we're being forced to board the green agenda train, whether we like it or not. And Jamie said, I'm a disabled pensioner. Mine and my wife's energy tariff doesn't change till April, but we're already paying £140 a month and in fuel poverty. Now, Jamie's impact, Jamie's email, like so many other emails we've received, has made an impact on us here at GB News. And Jamie actually will be appearing on the show later on to tell us his story. And if you're also feeling the heat or not when it comes to rising household energy bills, then write to us, gbviews@gbnews.uk or tweet @gbnews. We want to know about your experiences with our viewers becoming part of the show. Now, here in the studio, I'm delighted to be joined by the Conservative MP Craig McKinley, who represents South Thanet. Now, this is a cross-party campaign. We'll be talking to a Labour MP later in the show, but for now, we're delighted to be joined by Craig, and our On the Money regular, Helen Thomas, is also with us. She, of course, is CEO of the consultancy firm Blonde Money. Welcome to you both. Helen, this isn't your campaign. This is a GB News campaign. You're not aligned with this campaign, but you are an expert in these areas. We're always pleased to hear from you. Tell us about that April triple whammy that's coming.
Well, that is the fact. It is coming, as you said.
It's nailed on.
It's nailed on. There is a tax rise coming, the lifting of the energy price cap. What was your third one?
Inflation in general, as it goes. I mean, it was this time last year, inflation was 0.5%. It's now 5.2 and rising. Well,
and I sit here with my sort of long-term economic hat on. So the thing is, the bigger question from the economic perspective is that, are we going to stick around this 5 to 6% level, and what does it really mean? Now, I have always argued on this. We've had something like 20 years of complaints that inflation was too low. It wasn't going anywhere. So some inflation can be a good thing. But, as you pointed out in your intro there, what about wages? And in fact, last time I was on, we had Vicky Price in, who did point out that
The Economist,
some sectors have had 6, 7, 8% wage increases. I think she mentioned construction.
That's right.
But again, it's not everybody. It isn't, and I'm sure
not most people.
A lot of people watching the show will be feeling it. So, you know, we haven't really had to worry about inflation for, I think, was it even 40 years we were talking about last time, right? So there's no doubt this is an issue. The higher prices are here to stay, but it then becomes a political question. How do you deal with it?
Ahead of those May elections. Now, Craig, you are what's known in the trade as a campaigning backbencher. You're a popular MP down in South Thanet. I know you're in touch closely with your constituents. Tell us about the cost of living crisis in your part of the country.
Well, let's talk about the fuel bit. Fuel and having a warm home and hot water are not choices. These aren't discretionary spend. It's not like saying, oh, I want to buy the latest flat screen telly. You've got a choice about that. You haven't got a choice about background heating in your home. So I think this one is really, really relevant. There's two parts to this. The here and now, 51% is the likely increase. That's Martin Lewis, money-saving expert that we tend to take
up to about £2,000.
Absolutely, £2,000.
In fairness, a lot of people have been saying that for a while, including on this show. I think £2,000 is seen as, even the government don't knock down that number. When Ofgem raised the price cap, we think the average fuel bill will be about £2,000.
So we're going to look at what can the government do for the here and now. Now, the VAT is an obvious one. I know 5%, as the saying goes, is not much, but every little helps. The other levies that are on your fuel bills are, of course, the environmental levies. On electricity, 23%. On gas, 2.5%. Now, you can argue about, are they good and beneficial to help the dash to net zero? Well, that's as maybe, but we've got a here and now problem. So I would recommend the government scrap those for the time being, put them aside if necessary, because at least that would save £200-300 a year on the energy bills. So that's the here and now. But we've got a longer-term problem. We've got a longer-term problem of energy supply. I cannot see the geopolitical sense in Europe and Britain spending billions of pounds and euros on Putin's gas for them to rearm himself on the borders of the EU. That is geopolitical madness. We were given a gift, a Mother Nature gift in Britain. We've got plenty of gas, whether that's in the North Sea or potential for fracking. I would recommend that we use those levers and get some security back in our own domestic energy market.
Craig McKinley very much reflects views across many Conservative backbenchers, some Labour MPs as well, I'd say, and we'll be hearing from some later in the show. The Labour front bench wants to scrap VAT on fuel bills as well. I would say that the issues that Craig outlines there about COP26, energy subsidies for renewables, and also the geopolitical tensions that he rightly points to, they're really long-term things. I can't see Boris Johnson doing a sort of massive political reverse ferret, as we call it, a handbrake turn on this energy stuff anytime soon. I mean, maybe you and others on the backbenches will grind him down. I wouldn't put it past Tory backbenchers when they're like dogs with a bone sometimes, aren't they? No offence to Tory backbenchers, of course. But he could do this VAT thing literally with a flick of his pen.
He could. There's the question with the thing about VAT is, as we always talk about with taxes, is it progressive or regressive?
Yeah.
There's this, these words that are used. I mean, at the end of the day, what we're saying is, who are you benefiting?
Yeah.
Now, you're going to help the poorer in society because, as you pointed out there, more of their income is on the necessities. Of course it is. But across the board, if everyone gets this VAT cut, it actually benefits rich people as well.
Yeah.
Now, they might not notice it.
Because 5% of a big number is more than 5% of a small number. But that small... I thought long and hard about this, and you're completely right, Helen, of course. VAT cuts are regressive because they disproportionately benefit wealthier people compared to poorer people. Totally agree with you on that. What I'm thinking, though, is that the government needs to do something fast, something that it can do now it's left the European Union. There's a lot of people who sit on the backbenches with Craig and indeed across the country saying, so what was the point of Brexit? This demonstrates that we do have control of VAT. Now we're outside the European Union in a way that we didn't have. And if you do try and make a VAT cut, like not across the board, if you try and means test it, as we say, when you take into account the income and wealth, indeed, of the family that involved, it gets really, really messy. Most people fall either side, close to the line. And so I would say for political speed and to signal to the country that he gets it, that's why I think he should cut VAT.
Well, this is... and this is why I'm here to, throw in just the economic angle to this, because there is also the element of getting it out there. What's the quickest way to actually deal with these things? I mean, I remember at the beginning of the pandemic, there was actually, I think it was even Mervyn King who suggested...
Former Governor of the Bank of England,
Yes, that you should give businesses back their last VAT bill.
Yeah.
Now, again, that would have had all sorts of weird little distortions as to maybe it might have helped out some richer people or not.
Yeah.
So speed is a point about policy. Although I would say, I mean, we're going to hear this, I believe, aren't we, from the government about how some of those means-tested benefits, perhaps something more could be done on that. Perhaps both should be done. I mean, actually, with VAT, should we not think more ambitiously about what it's levied on anyway?
That's a much bigger question.
There is a question here.
Good job we got a show to discuss it over the next week's months.
Exactly.
Craig, finally from you, how much trouble is Boris Johnson in on his own backbenches ahead of these May elections?
Well, you discuss the VAT, discuss other measures. Let's not forget, these tax measures, rise in national insurance, the fiscal drag caused by the freezing...
As the tax thresholds are frozen, more and more people are dragged in.
That's not a great place to start when you've got an elections in lots of authorities, lots in London, in May. Not a great place to be. So I'd recommend that he uses those levers. The VAT lever, I think, is a good one. It's a Brexit dividend. Highlights a problem with Northern Ireland, mind you. So let's not forget that one. So I would recommend that he takes these measures. I mean, we did talk a little bit about the aggressive nature and all the rest of it. I would rather have universality because it's simple. I mean, we could argue that the reduction in hospitality VAT probably helped you and I more because we're likely to go out a bit more than those that are in
and spend a bit more at restaurants.
So, it's a difficult argument, but we've spent 11 years trying to make the distance between not being in work and in work a nice big gap to encourage people into work by giving more just handouts, as it were, much as they're very much needed. That could narrow that gap between being in work and out of work that just about managings get hit hardest.
Craig McKinley, we're grateful to you for coming in to the studio. We'll stay in touch with you as this campaign develops. Helen Thomas, you'll be staying with us. Thanks both, though, for kicking off the show. You're watching On the Money with me, Liam Halligan. Today, it's all about scrap the VAT. And coming up, we'll be hearing from the Labour MP Graham Stringer after Shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves said her party would indeed scrap VAT on domestic energy bills for 1 year. You won't want to miss that. Important conversations, so stay with us. You're On the Money.
Hello again. It's a rather grey Monday for most, with a lot of cloud out there, but it's turning milder, certainly in the west, whereas across much of the east, still quite a chilly feel, but much of the east will stay dry. Further west, it's going to be dank and drizzly thanks to this warm front, but it is, as I say, bringing milder air. So temperatures on the rise across the west, double digits likely here, but a lot of cloud and outbreaks of mostly light rain and drizzle covering parts of the Midlands, northwest England, particularly western Scotland. Much of eastern England will stay dry, but a bit of drizzle is possible here and there. And further west, it won't rain all day. Parts of Wales, southwest England having some drier spells, but quite soggy in western Scotland, Northern Ireland. But look at the temperatures here. Double digits, maybe up to 11 or 12, whereas in the east, just 6 or 7 Celsius. Now, in the east, we'll see temperatures dropping early on, but actually then later in the night as the rain and drizzle pushes in, so the milder air moves in as well. Whereas for Scotland and Northern Ireland, clearer skies here will allow the temperatures to drop. For England and Wales, it will be quite wet, some heavy bursts of rain possible as this thicker cloud continues to drift in, but that will, as I say, keep the temperatures up. A chilly start then for Scotland and Northern Ireland, but a much brighter day here tomorrow. A few showers in the northwest. Quite a grey affair for the Midlands, South Wales, southern and eastern England, with outbreaks of rain, particularly across the southeastern corner, but that will slowly pull away into the afternoon and evening. Brighter skies for northern England, North Wales come the afternoon, some sunshine likely here, but as a result it won't be as mild. It'll turn quite cold quite quickly with these clear skies on Tuesday night across more central parts. We'll still keep a brisk breeze blowing across the north throughout the next 48 hours, actually pretty gusty here. But light winds further south will allow a touch of frost. And increasingly through the rest of this week, we are going to see some dense patches of fog around, but not much in the way of rain through the rest of this week.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
And welcome back. You're on the money with me, Liam Halligan. Today we're launching our new campaign, Scrap the VAT, urging the government to remove tax on energy bills. Well, as it happens, while many Tory MPs are now pressuring the government to remove VAT on fuel bills. The Labour Party is calling for the same. Labour wants to introduce a new windfall tax as well on North Sea oil and gas producers, which the party says could raise £6.6 billion to help households save on their energy bills. Earlier on, Jonathan Reynolds, the Shadow Secretary of State for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, spoke to GB News.
We laid out at the weekend, and we're continuing to talk about it today, a package of measures that would give relief to bill payers and households, so some relief for everyone, at least £200 off their energy bills. Now, what we include within that is a package for business, because big businesses that are big producers, so steel, ceramics, these are sectors which are very heavily exposed to rising gas prices themselves, and clearly we need to find a solution for those businesses as well. So it's an overall package, fully funded. I'll take you through the components of that, but it's for households, for those most in need, for everyone, but also for British businesses very much affected by the spike in wholesale prices.
Now, we're joined here on The Money by the Labour MP for Blackley and Broughton. It's Graham Stringer, and Helen Thomas, CEO of Blonde Money, is still with us, of course. Graham, great to see you here on The Money as ever. Clearly, energy bills are becoming a major political issue here as April approaches. This triple whammy of cost of living increases, inflation and taxation and energy bills. I guess that you agree with your own party's front bench, unusually.
I think scrapping VAT on energy bills should be done immediately. Flat rate taxes like VAT are always regressive, so the poor suffer. I don't think we should go for individual support. We don't want to drive people into a poverty trap. We want to get rid of VAT and a windfall tax. Energy companies are making more profits, not because of any activity they've done, just because prices have moved in the energy industry. Those are short-term fixes which will help people, but there is a long-term change. We need to change what has been 20 years of madness in energy policy. Every energy minister I've asked, Labour, Tory, Lib Dem, have always said the priority is security of energy supply, then price, and then doing green things, which we all want a better environment. Actually, our policies have been in reverse. We haven't got security of energy supply, which is why we're importing gas from Russia and Qatar, and we're not using our own gas. We haven't kept prices down, and we've got about 25% of our energy bills are on green taxes. So we need to move back towards a sane energy policy.
And Graham, you are well known as a very active and astute parliamentarian, if I may say so. You have a very good antenna for how MPs are feeling, not just on the Labour side, but across the House. How important is the cost of living crisis in British politics at the moment as April approaches? Because it strikes me in recent weeks, I've been talking to MPs about cost of living and particularly energy prices a lot more than I've been talking to them about COVID.
I think the political atmosphere has changed. Sadly, I've been around long enough to remember the sort of very high levels of inflation in the 70s. And people don't like it. Even if they're employed and they're getting wage increases, it is threatening and unsettling when you live in a time of inflation. And MPs want to get re-elected. That's the basis of democracy. And if people are feeling threatened by price increases, then they may well change their vote. So it is the big thing, and I think the government will be under a lot of pressure to scrap VAT and do immediate things, but they need to dig deeper into the policies and see some of the international things we can't do anything about. Some we can. We can stop importing gas from Russia and helping the Russians with their, well, it's not defence policies, it's just an attack policy in Ukraine. And we can start making sure we get our own gas and oil out of the North Sea and under the northwest of England.
Graham, stay with us. I just want to turn back to Helen Thomas. So here we have a sort of Tory MP for South Thanet we talked to earlier, Craig McKinley. Graham Stringer, staunch Labour MP from just North Manchester there, Blackley and Broughton. I think between them, these two men are talking for quite a lot of people, aren't they?
Well, certainly they both have a long experience in their seats and they know what their constituents are worried about. And it's absolutely clear, as you've been saying for a number of months, that this is a huge political topic now, the point of the decrease of cost of living. I'd like to pick up on something from an economic perspective that Graham mentioned. Yeah. And he was talking about the time in the 70s. He said it's a very unsettling and uncertain time, even if you do get those wage rises.
25% inflation was in the... Even I remember that. You don't, of course.
No, I know. But there is... I mean, again, with my slightly geeky hat on, the economic modelling does tell you that on top of the basics of prices going up, there is a sentiment issue. There is a sentiment issue. It knocks people off course when they see those big rises and they feel very uncertain. Now, on top of that, we still have the pandemic with us. We still have a lot of uncertainty. That is also a factor that does need to be borne in mind that could affect the economy, is the uncertainty.
So that inflation, it really does spook businesses as well as households. Businesses don't like to invest when they don't know what prices are going to be going forward. And Graham Stringer, going back to you, we're focusing here on the money, on energy fuel bills for households, because our listeners and viewers are obviously mostly households, ordinary people rather than businesses. But it's also a really big deal for business, right? There's no energy price cap for companies that use energy. Up there in the northwest where you are, you've got a lot of manufacturers using an awful lot of energy. In the Midlands, in the northeast. So this energy crisis goes way beyond households, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And sadly, we haven't got as much industry as we used to have. Many of the green levies that have been placed on businesses have actually put them out of business. So those industries have gone to the Southeast Asia, to China, to Malaysia, to Vietnam. So the steel industry is under pressure. We've lost most of our paper and aluminium industry in this country. So that's gone. We need to have sanity in our energy policies so that we protect our industry as well as some of the poorest people. I was looking at the figures. This is moving back onto people and pensioners, really. We had 2 years ago 63,000 surplus deaths in the winter. Now, not all of those are because of coal, but many of them are pensioners suffering from hypothermia. So on one side, we've got the poorest people dying because they can't afford bills, and on the other side, we've got our industry exporting itself to elsewhere where energy is cheaper, so that we don't have the tax revenue to help people who are in dire poverty and in the cold. So we have to get to priorities in energy, which is security of energy supply, lower costs, and then help create a better environment.
Graham, always good to have you here on The Money. Thank you very much for your opinions today and for joining us here as we launch our campaign to scrap VAT on energy fuel bills. After the break, we'll be hearing from one of the many GB News viewers who helped inspire our Scrap the VAT campaign, plus huge numbers of emails on the subject again today. We'll be reading out some of those later in the show, but first it's the GB News headlines with Rosie Wright.
Good afternoon. Let's get you up to date at 1:34. Novak Djokovic says he's pleased and grateful the judge overturned his visa cancellation and that he aims to compete in the Australian Open. Earlier today, a court ruled he did have the required medical exemption to enter the country without a COVID vaccine. But the nation's immigration minister says he reserves the right to exercise personal power to expel the star from the country. The government is considering cutting the COVID isolation period for fully vaccinated people in England from the current 7 days to 5. Speaking during a visit to a vaccination centre in his West London constituency, Boris Johnson says ministers will follow the science. The Prime Minister also says lateral flow tests will continue to be freely available. The government said it will not hesitate to introduce a developer's tax to hit those responsible for dangerous cladding if firms do not voluntarily step up to fix safety defects. The Housing Secretary, Michael Gove, says developers need to start contributing to the estimated £4 billion cost this year. The last 7 years were the hottest on record by a clear margin. That's according to EU scientists. The Copernicus Climate Change Service say last year was the 5th hottest ever. The soaring temperatures caused intense wildfires in Turkey and Greece, while the highest ever temperature in Europe was recorded in Sicily at 48.8 degrees. Buckingham Palace has unveiled the lineup of celebrations for the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. It's going to mark her 70 years on the throne, with a 4-day bank holiday from the 2nd to the 5th of June. A platinum pudding competition that's going to be judged by a panel, including Dame Mary Berry, is among some of the events being planned, including street parties and a concert. It is 1:35. You are up to date here on GB News. I'll be back for you at 2 o'clock.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farrar, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Welcome back. You're on the money with me, Liam Halligan. Today we're launching our new GB News campaign, Scrap the VAT, urging the government to remove tax on energy bills ahead of big increases in those bills this coming April. When that energy price cap is rising on April the 1st, millions from around the country are set to see their energy bills rocket. The average bill is predicted to increase by around £700, topping £2,000 a year, about £170 a month. Now, it's often the elderly who suffer when fuel bills rise. Older people tend to feel the cold more, and many poorer pensioners really do find themselves, as Graham Stringer was saying before the break, choosing between heating and eating. As we launch our Scrap the VAT campaign, our North East of England reporter Rachel Sweeney caught up with the campaigning charity Age UK on North Tyneside.
Age UK says the cost of living is putting a disproportionate amount of strain on older people. We've covered on GB News how gas at wholesale is soaring, how that puts pressure on suppliers, and that filters down to affect the consumer. Well, Age UK is reminding us that older people have a fixed budget. They're usually on a pension and very rarely have a second income. So if they're using more money for fuel, that money has to come from somewhere else. The charity is worried that this will cause a choice between heating and eating. They're worried that if heat is rationed and homes become cold, people will become unwell. Well, I've been speaking to Yvonne Probert, who is Head of Charity Services at Age UK North Tyneside, and she has this advice.
So from Age UK's perspective, older people aren't alone out there. We are here to help them, and we can help them with either energy advice, so that can be around how to draft-proof their home, how to cut their energy bills by doing simple things like closing their curtains at night time or keeping their radiators clear. But we can also help them with free, impartial and confidential advice around their actual energy costs. So that can be whether or not they've got benefits such as the cold winter payment, or whether or not they're eligible for things like the warm homes discount. There's a lot of ways older people can actually cut their bills.
The charity said it's so important to provide this support because older people are less likely to switch providers to get a better deal. They said that can be down to not wanting to access online forms or forms being too complicated, even company loyalty. But the good news is that right now, money-saving experts say the best thing to do is nothing, it's to wait it out. They say that the energy market is in crisis. There are currently no deals cheaper than the price cap, so we should just wait. Now, behind me, you can see a flurry of former pit villages. We have a mining heritage up here. We're from mining families, so we have an older population, and that is why this is such a huge talking point in the northeast of England.
Rachel Sweeney there, GB News North of England correspondent, and from the north to the West Country, GB News viewer Jamie James is a disabled pensioner living in Cornwall. Jamie wrote to us last week to tell us about the fuel poverty he and his wife faced this winter, and he joins us now. Jamie, GB News viewer, there you are. Thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. Could you tell us a little bit about your situation in terms of the fuel bills that you and your wife are facing? Fuel bills which are set to go up a lot more.
Yeah, well, our bill was a few years back. We decided to go a bit green. We had the loft sprayed with insulation. I spent over £10,000 on another air supply heat pump fitted. We've got double glazing. All the lights are LEDs. I don't see that there's much else we can do to cut the bill. My present bill, the tariff is fixed till April, but when I said to you that I'm paying £140 a month, that doesn't include the £200 winter fuel payment that my wife gets, plus the war man discount of £140 that I get. So it's over £2,000 now.
That's incredible. That's incredible, Jamie. And even though scrapping VAT, I do understand, 5% is not huge, but if you're already paying over £2,000 effectively, then and fuel bills are set to go up more when Ofgem changes, when the Ofgem energy price cap is implemented. The new one will actually hear in early February, not long, where that price cap is going to hit, and it's introduced in April. It strikes me that you could save a fair bit of money if VAT was scrapped, £100, £150 a month. A year, apologies.
Yeah, well, that might be a saving like that. But the thing that I think the government could do is about this green energy tariff. Boris wants to go green and everything, but there's a great chunk of the bill that we pay goes to all these landowners that have got solar powered stations in their fields and everything. They're making a fortune, and it's us that's paying for it.
I can't argue with you, Jamie. I think it's widely agreed that around 25% of fuel bills at the moment are in the form of subsidies to the renewable energy sector, as you say. But you know what? This energy price cap's coming in just a few months, and I can't see Boris Johnson moving away from the COP26 agenda at all within those 2 months. And I know that obviously there's lots of fuel poverty there at the moment. So I would say as a start, scrap the VAT.
Yeah, it's a start.
Jamie, it's been absolutely brilliant to have you on the show. You're an ordinary viewer who emailed us. You've just staged your case on national television, and you've done it brilliantly. We'll stay in touch with you. We're really grateful to you for appearing here on The Money. Thank you very much indeed. Jamie James there. Helen, Jamie's right, of course. The big bulk of these energy fuel bills, it's not just about wholesale gas prices, though it is largely about wholesale gas prices. We can't change global geopolitics. We can improve our gas storage here in the UK so we can iron out some of the ups and downs in commodity prices, which are always going to exist. But I can't see Boris Johnson moving away from the green agenda anytime soon. Can you?
Well, it was interesting to talk about that because, as you say, the big lump of the price that you have to pay is, of course, the wholesale price. Then you've got operating costs and the pipes and all the rest of it. You add all that up, it's about 75% of that cost of your bill is to do with that. So where can you make adjustments? And there is this point about green subsidies. Even that element, though, is, I think it's around, it's no more than 10%. It's still a small amount. It's still a small amount. The question, though, and we've talked about this a lot on your show, is there has to be an honesty that the green transition costs money. And when do you do it? Now, my COO has this brilliant expression. I think it's
your chief operating officer.
It's not just me at Blonde Money. He's not blonde either. But I will say this. You know, when's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. But when's the second best time? Today.
Now,
Right, so that, and of course, we had Greta in here. She'd be saying, well, you know...
Greta Thunberg.
The climate emergency is now. You've got to start the green transition. I mean, if we start tinkering about with that element, now it might well be, as we've heard there from your viewer, you know, not ending up where people want it to go, lining the pockets of people they're not too happy with it on. But you've got to kick-start the move to renewables, or we're never going to get some of this energy security that we've been talking about.
But it may. I think the debate now. You know, you watch politics as closely as I do. I think the debate now on the Greens side is whether the payments that we need to make should be as part of your fuel bill, which in many ways hits poorest people hardest because fuel is a necessity. You don't make a choice. You know, you need hot water, you need heating. You know, we don't live in Florida. Moving that burden for now to general taxation, which of course, you know, the rich do pay more because they pay at higher rates of tax and all the rest of it. That could happen, I think. That's the only thing I think the government would contemplate this near to COP26. It was just a few months ago. For the next year or so, they're not going to back off. They may, though, shift to general taxation as opposed to paying for the green stuff from fuel bills. What do you think of that?
Well, I mean, we are one of the only countries that makes the consumer pay for this green transition rather than the producer.
Indeed.
And that is a political decision. So you're right, that this is within the hands of the government to decide where that burden falls. And again, I would sort of put it back to this bigger picture point. You know, there's a triple whammy coming, as you said. There's that national insurance rise coming as well.
Yeah.
We've just spent £400 billion over these last 2 years.
On COVID support measures.
On COVID support measures. Well, what does the economy of 20, 30 years' time look like? There seems to be a suggestion it should be greener and cleaner and more fair. So let's put all the building blocks together to do that. And so far, we just haven't seen that.
We haven't seen that. Helen Thomas, thanks for that. Now, we just heard from Jamie James, who's in Cornwall in the West Country. And from the West Country, we go across to Kent. GB News, we're everywhere. Last week, GB News South East reporter Ellie Costello went to a food bank in Gillingham, run by Neil Charlick. Appearing on The Money, Neil spoke of immense pressures high fuel bills were already putting on the finances of low-income households and the knock-on demand at the food bank that he runs. Neil joins us now. Thank you so much for joining us here on The Money. Great to see you, Neil. What are your first thoughts on scrapping VAT on fuel bills? To what extent are the families who come to your food bank for help talking about cost of living, talking about spiralling energy costs?
I think we're just constantly giving people bad news. They can't afford to heat, they can't afford to eat themselves, they can't afford to drive their car. National insurance is going to go up. Are we ever going to get any good news? Is there anything good going to happen to these people? I mean, now, these are residents of this country. We shouldn't be in this state. It's disgraceful, really. We feed 10,000 people a month. I spoke with your young lady, Ellie, last week about a guy who comes to our soup kitchens and our food bank to get food, was about taking his curtains down over night time to keep himself warm. It's disgraceful. How are we letting these things happen to people?
Some people would say, Neil, that scrapping VAT, it's only 5%, but I guess you know from your work on the front line that every little helps. 5% of £2,000 is 100 quid.
Every little does help, and it really is. It's getting harder and harder for people. I think it's just a shame that we've really put people in this situation. I mean, we've stopped just giving food. We give furniture to people, school uniform, sanitary products. It's just changing every week. We're just trying to get anything we can to give to people in need, and it's worrying for us because our numbers are just going up. About 1,000 people a month more we're feeding, and we're not able to give people energy. We don't have the facilities or the money to be able to pay people's electric and their gas bills. We don't have a wind farm. If anyone wants to donate a wind farm, we'd more than happily take that, and we'd give that away for free as well. It's a shame. I don't really know what else we can do. There's only so much we can do to help. I think the government needs to step in, and they need to help the people themselves.
And Neil, you must be seeing a lot more demand at your food bank as we come into what are the coldest months of the year, January and February.
The numbers are about 1,000 a month now that is going up, and it's steadily going up, and people needing our help. And we started originally as a homeless charity, so we were just helping the street homeless. That then moved into what we call supported housing, where people had come from the streets, they were going into accommodation. We was then assisting them, and now it is everybody. We get all sorts of people that you wouldn't think would be using food banks are now just struggling. So people are turning more and more to the voluntary sector and charities to help. Luckily, I think for the country, the voluntary sector has been very strong through COVID, and it's helped a lot of people. And thankfully, that's more and more needed. I think the more charities out there that can help and all do their small part, it's making life easier for the residents of the UK.
And just finally, Neil, Gillingham, I know Gillingham well. It's broadly speaking a conservative part of the country, traditionally voting Tory down there in Kent. To what extent are you sensing concern about this cost of living crisis as April approaches? And to what extent do you think, Neil, that could be expressed in a bit of a hammering for the Tories at the polls in May?
Thankfully, I don't know a lot about politics. We actually just
Very
get
wise.
on and do. Yeah, we just get on, we do stuff. We don't talk about it. We just actually get the job done. And I think that's why I probably wouldn't be good in politics. I just do the job rather than talk about it. I think there will be a lot of problems for the Tories, but I think is anyone else going to do any better? The problem is, it's what you've got to work with these days. There is problem after problem. So I don't think it's an easy job for anyone. I know everyone likes to blame someone, and my local council have been very good to me. They've been very good. They've supported us. They've helped us get the job done. So I'm grateful for anyone that helps us, but I think it's going to be difficult for him.
Neil, thanks a lot for joining us. Neil Charlick there, who runs a food bank in Gillingham in Kent. Thanks to Neil. Thanks to you, Helen Thomas, for joining us. We'll see you back in the studio again soon. And thank you to all of our guests today. So many of you have emailed gbviews@gbnews.uk over the last hour on this issue of scrapping the VAT on energy bills on our campaign here at GB News, Scrap the VAT. Leslie says, I worked hard all my life and made sure I saved for a private pension. It turns out this was a mistake, as because of this second pension, I'm unable to get any of the benefits given to those who didn't bother to save for their old age. I've just had to cancel both of my scheduled dentist appointments as I can't eat and look after my teeth. Jackie says, hi, can you explain the energy cap, as I heard you say it will increase to £2,000. My direct debits are £300 per month. If the cap is set, how can my direct debit be so high? Well, Jackie, I can't do that here on television now at the end of the show, but I suggest you get in touch with your energy company, ring the Citizens Advice Bureau. They're always very good at giving that kind of specific advice, which I'm not allowed to give. Marjorie says, my electricity costs are up nearly double. Yes, a VAT reduction would be a step to help, but it's not enough. The environmental fuel levy is the one that must be tackled. Peter says, why aren't we using Brexit to reduce VAT generally? It was my understanding that a portion of VAT went to Brussels. If correct, the Treasury are raking it in. That's right. Under European Union membership, we had to have VAT of at least 5% on everything. Some things could be zero rated, but we had to get specific permission from Brussels. That no longer applies. Alex says, cut VAT on the first £2,000 of energy bills. This benefits the poorest, but stops those that pay more benefiting. Not a bad idea. This stops it being a regressive tax. Deb says VAT should remain Good to get some different opinions here on GB News. Help should be targeted to pensioners and those on benefits. Money can be raised from the rich to pay for this targeted help. And Addy says, I think this is a great idea by Liam Halligan to use his show to campaign for the scrapping of VAT on energy bills. Thanks, Mum. It's not my mum. My mum does watch the show. Hi, Mum. This is fabulous, says Aid. Just like papers like the Daily Mail use their platform to campaign. VAT should have been scrapped long ago as a dividend of Brexit. If you're facing tough times with rising household energy bills, then write to us on gbviews@gbnews.uk. We want to know about your experiences with our viewers becoming part of the show. We're going to carry on with this campaign here on The Money and across GB News more generally. You've been watching On The Money with me, Liam Halligan. Thanks for joining me today. We'll be continuing our Scrap the VAT campaign here on The Money and indeed across the channel as a whole, because if it matters to you, it matters to us. And we'll be back for more economics, business and consumer news at 1 p.m. tomorrow. This is GB News. I'm Liam Halligan, and launching our new Scrap the VAT campaign, that was On The Money.
Hello again. It's a rather grey Monday for most, with a lot of cloud out there, but it's turning milder, certainly in the west, whereas across much of the east, still quite a chilly feel, but much of the east will stay dry. Further west, it's going to be dank and drizzly thanks to this warm front, but it is, as I say, bringing milder air, so temperatures on the rise across the west, double digits likely here, but a lot of cloud and outbreaks of mostly light rain and drizzle covering parts of the Midlands, northwest England, particularly western Scotland. Much of eastern England will stay dry, but a bit of drizzle is possible here and there. And further west, it won't rain all day. Parts of Wales, southwest England having some drier spells, but quite soggy in western Scotland, Northern Ireland. But look at the temperatures here, double digits, maybe up to 11 or 12, whereas in the east, just 6 or 7 Celsius. Now, in the east, we'll see temperatures dropping early on, but actually then later in the night as the rain and drizzle pushes in, so the milder air moves in as well. Whereas for Scotland and Northern Ireland, clearer skies here will allow the temperatures to drop. For England and Wales, it will be quite wet, some heavy bursts of rain possible as this thicker cloud continues to drift in, but that will, as I say, keep the temperatures up. A chilly start then for Scotland and Northern Ireland, but a much brighter day here tomorrow. A few showers in the northwest. Quite a grey affair for the Midlands, South Wales, southern and eastern England, with outbreaks of rain, particularly across the southeastern corner, but that will slowly pull away into the afternoon and evening. Brighter skies for northern England, North Wales come the afternoon, some sunshine likely here, but as a result it won't be as mild. It'll turn quite cold quite quickly with these clear skies on Tuesday night across more central parts. We'll still keep a brisk breeze blowing across the north throughout the next 48 hours, actually pretty gusty here. But light winds further south will allow a touch of frost. And increasingly through the rest of this week, we are going to see some dense patches of fog around, but not much in the way of rain through the rest of this week.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farrar, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.